The Zanj called one another to arms. The Zanj Slave Rebellion, 869 to 883 CE. In context: location, Iraq. Before 689 CE, early enslaved Zanj revolt but are crushed by forces of the Umayyad Caliphate. A second revolt fails in 694. 750. The Abbasid Caliphate overthrows the Umayyad Caliphate, ushering in a new Islamic Golden Age. 861. The assassination of the Abbasid Caliph Mutawakkil prompts a period of political and social instability. After 1258, the Mongol side of Baghdad, Iraq, leads to the fall of the Abbasid Caliphate. 1600, the establishment of the British East India Company results in increased trade in enslaved East Africans. 1962, Saudi Arabia and Yemen finally abolish slavery under pressure from Britain. For more than 2 centuries, as they penetrated further into Africa, Muslim Arab traders exchanged goods for native peoples enslaved by African traders. In the 9th century CE, thousands of mainly Bantu-speaking East Africans, whom the Arabs called Zanj, were transported to southern Iraq, which was part of the Muslim Empire ruled by the Abbasid Caliphate. The land around the Tigris and Euphrates rivers was highly fertile, but floods made much of it impossible to cultivate. Local Muslim magnates sought to reclaim such areas for agriculture, which would then entitle them to own the land. They forced the Zanj to perform the back-bringing labor required: digging ditches, draining marshland, and scraping salt flats. Resentment and uprising. Underfed and living in overcrowded camps, many of the Zanj fell ill and died. Survivors developed a fierce community spirit and a resentment towards their Muslim enslavers. In 869, Ali ibn Muhammad, a Persian scholar, won their support by recognizing their hardship and promising them freedom and wealth if they joined his rebellion. Ibn Muhammad had fled to Basra, a prosperous port in southern Iraq, after leading a failed revolt in what is now Bahrain, in eastern Arabia. He espoused the beliefs of Qajarism, an early Muslim sect, which taught that enslaved people could, through merit and piety, escape hardship and even become caliphs. Inspired by this message, the Zanj rallied around him. The rebellion, also supported by disaffected groups such as local peasants and Bedouin peoples, quickly spread across southern Iraq, coinciding with a time of unrest and instability in the Abbasid Empire. Imperial armies were sent but failed to put down the rebels, who raided towns and villages and then disappeared back into the hidden channels and overgrown reeds of the marshes. Other enslaved Africans who were part of the imperial forces defected and joined the Zanj. By 870, the rebels had created their own fortified city called Al-Mukhtar, in a dry area of the salt flats that was surrounded by canals. There they built houses, palaces, a prison, and markets, and even minted their own currency. Now in control of southern Iraq, they took Basra in 871 and exacted their revenge on these cities' inhabitants, massacring many, enslaving some. While the Caliph's armies were fighting in Persia, the Zanj extended their control further north, coming within 70 miles of Baghdad, and then pushed into Khuzestan, an area just north of the Persian Gulf. And the empire fights back. In 879, Al-Muwafaq, a brother of the Caliph Al-Mu'tamid, returned to lead the imperial army after having fought in Persia, and launched a major offensive against the Zanj, first taking the second Zanj city, Al-Manaya, then expelling the rebels from Khuzestan. In the spring of 881, Muwafaq built his own city on the Tigris River opposite Al-Mukhtar. He cleared the waterways for navigation, set up a blockade, and laid siege on the Zanj capital. Al-Muwafaq promised money and freedom to rebels who surrendered, and many accepted his offer. For 3 years, however, the Zanj capital held out. Finally, in 883, Al-Muwafaq led an army of around 50,000 against the Zanj, and Al-Mukhtar fell. Ibn Muhammad was captured, and his head was taken to the Caliph. The brutal revolt was over, but it had disrupted the region and weakened the Caliphate. The rebellion's successes and the fear of a similar uprisings led to the cessation of large scale plantation slavery in much of the Abbasid Empire.